following is an exclusive presentation of the Ultimate Hoops Podcast Network.
Life is so short. You know, it was just 2007 when Pat Summitt dressed up in a cheerleading outfit and sang Rocky Top at the men's basketball game, you know, was lifted at the top of the pyramid. You know, 10 years ago, she was in perfect health and shape, and now, you know, it's different. It's just shows that how valuable and precious life is. So today, I'm going to be talking about the impact that Pat Summitt has had on my life. And we also have a very special guest, Tara VanDerveer, my head coach, is going to share various memories that she has about Coach Summitt. And we really just want to be candidly about Pat Summitt today. So it was really important for me just to, you know, we were talking about, you know, my moment, my national championship game against Tennessee. That was kind of that was the end of my road in college basketball, and it ended against Pat Summitt. But I think it's really important, you know, for me to really talk about getting to that point and her influence over me. I think that I wasn't even aware of it until I started reflecting. So it started in 2000 at the Tennessee camp. I went to the Tennessee women's basketball camp. I was in 7th grade, entering 8th grade, and I remember it. We stayed there for 5 days at the dorm rooms, and it was the biggest experience that I ever had at that point. It was overwhelming. It was 1999. They had won the championship, and they were perfect, 39-0. Shamika Holdsclaw gets drafted, and this was it for me. I was here. I was on the Tennessee campus, and there was like close to 1,000 campers around me, and everything was just such a blur. It was just orange blur, and it was being able to experience that at the height of it all. You know, I couldn't really understand. I felt like such a small little dot, little speck, and all I wanted to do the whole time at camp, all I wanted was to get Coach Summitt's attention. All I wanted to do was just get her to notice me and be in her vicinity, because it was such a big camp and we were young that it was more of a focus on the high school talent that was there. I was in the middle school talent pool. So it was like we were just fighting just to get acknowledgement because we weren't older. And I just remember doing everything I could to stand out in the crowd to get that attention. And it ended up paying off after 5 days of feeling isolated and looking and seeing all these girls who wanted the same thing that I did, but feeling like I deserved it more. And it was like I said, it was all her attention and validation. That's all I wanted. And I remember at the end of the camp, I got MVP of the camp of my middle school group. And because of that warranted a handshake for Pat Summitt. I got to stand up in front of, you know, the hundreds and hundreds of girls and go up and shake Pat Summitt's hand and look at her. And you know, it was so brief. She had so much going on, and she acknowledged me. She looked at me, she shook my hand. And I know at the time she would never, you know, recall this, but it was just such a significant moment for me. It was like, after that, I just felt like I felt shook in my spirit when I got to just interact with her for 1 second, and it was like over in a flash. So after I got my first fix of Tennessee basketball and just saw how she jump-started something in my spirit, I wanted more of her attention. I wanted more. I wanted, as I got into 8th grade, and I had an opportunity to say, okay, I want more. I want Pat Summitt to notice me. She's got it. How can I do this? And it was so hard getting her attention. It was like the hardest thing you could ever imagine vying for, because she was so at the highest point and had this aura about her. So I just knew that I had a long way to go. So when I was in high school, I was constantly again, I always had my eyes, and I always had, a heart for Stanford and for Tara VanDerveer. But there was something nagging about Pat Summitt, about her respect and just wanting her to, like I said, acknowledge me. It was that. I didn't search for it in any other school I needed except for Tennessee, just to complete that moment as a 7th grader. So, and I could tell that I never necessarily saw myself at Tennessee. Being at the Tennessee camp, I could kind of feel, and I'm a California girl, so it was just such a far place away. So I never really had the intentions of ever coming back necessarily to her school. But I started wanting to know more about Pat and why it was that I personally needed validation from her, or why I was feeling like inadequate as a basketball player until I had that. So in my junior year in high school, in our English class, my English class, we were able to pick any book we wanted to do a report on and to explicate and to share with the class. So I picked Reach for the Summit, and I remember, there was plenty of books that I could have went for and reached for, and I thought about Shooting from the Outside from Tara VanDerveer, but for some reason I was just, I want to go for Reach for the Summit. I want to dive into this, and so that was kind of the start for me. Even though I never went to school, I never went to Tennessee, I never played for Pat Summitt. Through reading her books, I went to her school of thought, and that's where I really started to understand, who she was, and that's when I began to really, really, really become enamored with her in my own private mind as a junior, going through recruiting. Reading her book, I knew that probably no other recruits were doing that like I was, and studying her, and also reading the stories about her recruits. I remember the stories about, the player, not only her recruits, she was very involved in the recruiting process. That was something that she was really passionate about. As when you read her books, you understand she, individually, each person means something to her. And she would describe her home visits with players, and she would describe how they grew. And you got to see how Shamika Holsclaw grew as a player, Tamika Catchings grew as a player, and these girls that I admired so much. I was just obsessed with even their growth, and wow, how she brought out the best in everyone, and you just got to see their ups and their downs, their peaks and valleys. And then you'd read stories about some of the players would be partying too much, and then she had the 4 trash can story. And I remember I talk about this with my friend Candice Parker. We would share these, because I was very curious about her experience. But I just remember reading about it in Reach for the Summit, the 4 trash cans she laid out and had them run around until they all threw up in the trash cans. And I just, it was little things like that that really got my mind just understanding the kind of player I wanted to be when I played in college. Even if I didn't play for Pat Summitt, I wanted to be a player that Pat Summitt would recruit. I wanted to be a player that Pat Summitt would respect. I wanted to be the player that Pat Summitt would say, she's it, and it's almost bringing tears to my eyes to think about that, because I realize now how much she set that tone for me. And even though I knew I wasn't probably going to go to Tennessee, I still wanted to be a Tennessee player, if that makes any sense. So then, in high school, senior year, it was my senior year, junior year summer, I get my wish. She starts recruiting me, and they had a very long hierarchy list, and I don't know where I was on that list. I know Candice Parker was very high on that list, so they definitely were pursuing her, and I understood that, but yeah, I was on the list as well. And so I think as they started signing more players, I became more and more on their radar. And that was when I had, the most fulfilling and satisfying moment, because like I said, it wasn't necessarily about Tennessee and the school and going there for me personally. It was just about Pat Summitt's acknowledgement and respect for me and who I was and where I fit in that long list of legends that she's coached. So she ended up recruiting me. She came to my high school, La Jolla Country Day, and for a visit to come watch practice, which was huge, because I think she kind of knew that I think I communicated with the Tennessee staff that, I was really waiting for Stanford to see about my admissions and making sure that I got in. She knew that, and she was so respectful of that. And she still insisted to come and watch me practice and come to show that she was interested. So I really appreciated that. She came, and our gym was closed, so we had to go across the street to the JCC, the Jewish Community Center, and it was this really small, compact gym. And this is the craziest thing about Pat Summitt. When she came to our little small gym, our small school, the girls on my team turned into rabid dogs. Like, we killed each other. We killed each other in practice. It was the most intense practice of my entire high school career. Everybody was sweating and bleeding and frothing at the mouth. And it was all because Pat Summitt was sitting there. Any other coach come, and we were always saying, but when Pat Summitt came to our practice, and I couldn't believe it. I'm looking like, even though none of us, or only, though she was there for one person and nobody else was going to be playing for her, that's the effect that she had. Even players who never were going to play for her, she just brought that out of them. So I'll never forget that. And so then I think about, I made the choice to go to Stanford, and my freshman year, first time ever playing Tennessee, you talk about anxiety. You don't even understand that anxiety is not even the word that I felt. I was 17 years old, about to play Tennessee at Tennessee. My freshman year, they were ranked higher than us. We were ranked high. I was shaking like, oh my God, like, where am I? I remember the last time I was at Thompson-Boling Arena was at the Tennessee camp in 8th grade. And I'm sitting here, I'm a freshman, I'm starting for Stanford. I am playing with all seniors, and I am the leading scorer of the Stanford team. And I'm 17, and I'm scared, and I have no idea. And there's 20,000 people in the seats roaring Tennessee Orange fans. And I feel like I'm like living in the pages of the book that I've been reading in my high school. I'm literally like flipping through my mind of what I read about her and saying, like, this is real. This isn't a book. I'm not reading this in the privacy of my own life. This is really happening, and it's happening in front of 20,000 people. Are you ready? And that game, that very first game, I just remember, just being in the moment, being frightened the whole time. It's a very intimidating place. It's just a whole nother environment. But we were fighting. Like, I remember competing and using almost those same qualities and the same, that ideologies that she instilled in me in her book. I was almost using those to compete against her. And it was so crazy to me. And I felt very confident because I had Tara VanDerveer. She was my shield. And I could tell that Tara was, I just listened to what she'd say, and I was just so soaking in the information. I had, like I said, 5 seniors were on that team with me, and they had been through that 3 other times before this. And it was just like this special game. And then at the end, we ended up tying the game, and it was the end of the seconds of the game. It was just like such an intense game. And then at the end of the game, Shanna Zolman of the Tennessee, the clock's running down, and she flings up a half-courtish shot, and it goes in, and Tennessee beats us. And it would have went to overtime if she missed it, and who knows what would have happened in overtime, but she made the shot, and it was a buzzer beater, and they win, and it was just like they were celebrating. And then and there goes my dream of beating Tennessee my freshman year. Pop goes that dream, and it was over. And I was really sad, but at the same time, again, you can just tell in Tennessee, it's one of those expectations. It meant way more to them than it did to us, it seemed like, always. And I think that was why we were always on the other end of it all. So, by the way, that game, that my freshman year, that was actually the same day that Stanford women's volleyball, which I was still technically a part of their team, played in the national championship game. And they were playing Minnesota, actually, University of Minnesota, in the national championship game. I couldn't be there, and they won the national championship that day. And I was so excited, and it was like, even though we had lost this really, really hard fought game, I was just so excited. I was like, we just won a championship. I was very much a part of that volleyball team my freshman year. I even got a championship ring, and I remember, when I decided to leave the volleyball to go to basketball, and it was, there was lots of crying amongst my volleyball team members. Agana Namani is like a sister to me, and Gina Namani, her little sister, and this was like, I felt like we'd just won a championship. So I was really happy, and I started thinking, about volleyball. I started thinking about it more, and I started becoming a lot happier thinking about it. So this is a very, very untold story that I'm about to share, but it's really significant to me now. And I remember as I'm walking out of the arena, pondering about what I should do about volleyball. Should I be a two-sport athlete at Stanford like so many before me, or should I continue in basketball? What really do I want? What is it? What do I want to be? Do I want to be volleyball, basketball player, or do I want to just be a basketball player? And this was such an important crossroads for me as a freshman, and just losing to Tennessee and just wondering, what is this going to become? What really path should I follow? So as I'm walking to the bus by myself, I get approached by Pat Summitt. She's sitting there. She comes to me and she says, "Candice, can I talk to you for a second? Can I talk to you for a moment over here in this room here?" And I just froze. I was so scared. This was like the moment I had been waiting for my whole life. Pat Summitt is acknowledging me. She actually is acknowledging me. I said, yeah, I was mixed with fear and with excitement that she, I didn't even know how she felt about me. So I was just like, but it was a lot of fear too, because I was just like, what does she want to talk about? I thought she was going to talk about the game. I didn't know she was going to talk about, I didn't know what it was going to be. And I was just, all I wanted was feedback from her. So she takes me to this room, right, close by, and she closes the door and we sit down, and she just says, I want to just talk to you about something. It's about volleyball. And when she said that, I was like, volleyball? And, then she asked me, she said, I want to ask you, do you like volleyball, or do you love it? Do you like basketball, or do you love basketball? Do you love it? And I promise you, all I was thinking was the description in her book about people saying her eyes staring at you, those blue piercing eyes. They were just pierced through my soul. And I just kept going back to her book as my reference, like, she's speaking to me, and she's speaking to me, and she knows that I play volleyball. She knows me, and she knows who I am. And I just remember there's this honesty, there's this truth that she possesses. And I just looked at her and I said, and I was very confused, because it wasn't like she was going anywhere with the question. She was just asking me, do you really love it? And then I was just kind of like stammering, and she could tell that. So she kind of had to keep going, because I was just so like, I wanted to say, what do you think? Should I like it or love it? And I was almost like wanting her to tell me. And then she says, well, what do you want to do in basketball? Where do you want to go in basketball? Do you just want to play in college and you'll be great? You played great tonight. You're going to be great. Or do you want to be higher? Do you want to go to the Olympics? Do you want to be the best? Do you want to be the greatest? And I was just like, I want to be in the Olympics. I want to be the greatest, Pat. I do. And she says, well, in order to do that, you have to make a sacrifice, and you have to choose. You have to let go of volleyball if you want to be the greatest. You'll be good if you continue playing volleyball, but you'll be great if you focus on basketball. And that was the day that the thing about Pat telling me that was that it was the most stubborn aspect of my life. It was to the point where anyone who else would tell me this, anyone else who brought this particular decision in my life, whoever would approach me with it, I would get very angry, and I would get very much in denial and be upset, and it was upsetting to me, and no one could penetrate that. Not even Tara could, really. You know, it was just one of those things where it was such a personal, deep decision that I clung to, and I would not, no one could break it. But in just that brief moment, the way that she communicated to me and really understood what it is that I wanted and that I was seeking, instantly I just broke. I was like, yes, coach, yes, okay. And it took a little bit of time, but eventually, you know, a couple of, you know, maybe 5 to 7 days later, I eventually went to my teammates in basketball and went to the coach, the volleyball coach, John Dunning, and to Tara and said, I've made a decision that I'm going to not play volleyball anymore. And everybody knew how big of a decision that was. And, you know, my John Dunning was very upset, I think, you know, and he was trying to find a way to make it work. And then, you know, I think Tara was very happy and felt very relieved because she had gone through 2 sport athletes before and just wanted to really, you know, see me reach my highest potential in Stanford. And, you know, my teammates were really happy and supportive, and everyone knew how hard of a decision it was. But it was Pat Summitt who got to the heart. She got to the heart, my heart, you know, and she didn't even know me. We didn't have multiple conversations about it. She didn't see me ever. She didn't really understand it at all, but she just knew. She saw in me something that I didn't even see in myself. And I'll never forget that moment. From that moment on, I became a better basketball player just from hearing, you know, her speak to my soul. And that's just the power that she has, you know, and just something so small being such a huge, you know, part of my life now. So I have to, you know, remember her for that, and I will cherish for that. What I admire most about Coach Summitt is her ability to communicate, and even communicate mass communication, and her communication to the world, to individuals, to just in general was so clear, and her message was for everybody. She was truly the people's coach, and for that I will always appreciate her, and I think that there's something for everybody with Pat Summitt. So all I can say is that I'm honored to not only have been able to have these personal interactions with her, but to also be a part of her last national championship game. And as I, you know, talked about it earlier, and how, you know, I just kind of, you know, had to relinquish it to her, I think there was a reason behind that, because it was her special moment. And I think that, you know, it was her last, you know, national championship, and I feel honored to be a part of that. And rest in peace, Pat Summitt. Are you one of the 99% of basketball players who never played professional basketball? Are you tired of trying to live your hoop dreams in the same old rec basketball leagues? At Ultimate Hoops, we believe that all basketball players should be treated like a professional. And with Ultimate Hoops League, we have completely revolutionized recreational basketball. With the Ultimate Hoops League, you'll get full online stats for every game, including box scores, videos, photos, power rankings, and your own personal profile that tracks your stats for your entire career. And you can compare your stats with the thousands of other Ultimate Hoops players across the US and Canada. Most Ultimate Hoops leagues cost under $100 a season, which includes 8 regular season games played on Lifetime Fitness's professional quality basketball courts. No matter what your skill level is, the Ultimate Hoops League is the place to take your talents to. Join the largest recreational basketball league in America, the Ultimate Hoops League, by going to uhlife.com to get started. A new season starts in July, so go to uhlife.com now and start getting treated like a professional today. All right. Now I have very special guest for this episode. My former coach, Tara VanDerveer, is on the phone with us. Welcome, Tara.
Hi, Candice.
Hi, Tara. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing so good. Tara, first of all, just thank you. I'm so appreciative of your time, as always. You know,
I'm always happy, Candice. Any way I can do something with you, it's a great day.
Well, you know, I valued every single second of every single day of playing for you. So, and this is no different with life after. So,
thank you.
Yeah, so thank you. And Tara, today we are talking about Coach Pat Summitt. And
Okay.
earlier I discussed her impact on my life, and it really just got me thinking and reflecting. And sometimes it takes an entire lifetime to really understand the legacy of those who influenced us. And I believe that you can really, really help in that understanding. So again, I appreciate you taking the time to be candid with me about this matter.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll just start. Tara, you and Pat had this very unique, extra special mutual respect for one another. You two would coach the Stanford, Tennessee game every year. I can still remember playing in those games and how they were the highlights of some of my career-defining moments. And I think the coolest part about it was that you two were able to play in that intense game, in that intense rivalry game every year, but actually enjoy it, which was very interesting and very unique. So what did that rivalry, her friendship, and that mutual respect, what did that mean to you?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think Candice, Pat might have enjoyed the rivalry more. They won more than we did. But we started playing Tennessee when we recruited Jennifer Azzi from Oak Ridge, which is 20 miles from Knoxville. And I think you're absolutely right. It was a really special rivalry for Stanford. I mean, Stanford was nothing. Tennessee was number one, national champions. I mean, they were awesome, an awesome team. And we started playing them, and by playing against them, we got better. And I think there were some fun things about it is that not only did we play Tennessee, but that's where we won our first national championship in Thompson Bowling Arena in Knoxville. And Pat was one of the first people I saw after we won the national championship. And I mean, I know she was very disappointed that their team wasn't in that Final Four, but she was very classy and was there to support women's basketball and congratulate me when we won. And so through this competition and through this rivalry, that was probably at the time the biggest rivalry, during the 90s, late 80s, 90s, playing against Tennessee. And we were friends through the whole time. We never had a bad thing to say about each other. We never had a bad moment. In fact, when we played Tennessee, about the last time we ever played them, and Pat must have known that she wasn't doing well at the time. Before the game, we met at half court like we always did, and we were just talking, and and I said something about, look at this great crowd, and look what you've built, with Tennessee, and she turned to me and she said, Tara, I love you. And I was like, I don't know how I'm supposed to coach the game after that, but she just said, thank you for all you've done for women's basketball. And we just, it was a really intense, not only an intense game, but intense moment. So, we did share a lot.
Man, that is incredible. So Pat she was iconic. I mean, you guys both were iconic, but she was one of the winningest coaches. And I think, reading her books and just being inspired by her in that way, the way that her players responded to her, I think, was one of her special qualities, and her passion for the game. She made her players believe that they could win, as you and I know very well. Tennessee every year, they just knew that they were going to win a championship. It was just it was just an expectation that she instilled in them. And you're an icon as well, Tara, and like that mutual respect that Pat shared with you, it's just, to me, you two are at the top. You're at the summit, you guys, it's you two. And I would love to know, being in that position that you're in this world, in the women's basketball world, how did Coach Summitt specifically inspire you in your coaching career, in the coaching world?
Well, obviously, she was totally dedicated to Tennessee and, Tennessee women's basketball, lady ball basketball. She is Tennessee basketball. She built a great program. The program, was not just good one year. She is the winningest coach in men's or women's basketball. And, she was what I like about her, what I think that means a lot to me is that, she's a very strong woman, when a lot of times strong women are, put down for being, the capital B word, for women. That in some ways women can't be strong and leaders. Those are masculine things. But she was respected for being a strong and assertive woman. When a lot of women would get, would get in, not in trouble necessarily, but were not respected for that. So she stood up for women's basketball, but women's rights. She was bigger than women's basketball. I mean, she was really women's sports. And, I think obviously she put Tennessee women's basketball on the map, but she also helped put women's basketball on the map and women's sports on the map by having great crowds, by being on television, by being a very strong woman role model. So she influenced me in a lot of positive ways. And I think she also, she motivated me to want to beat them. It was the biggest game of the year. We worked on beating them all year long. And, it took a while, but, when we did, it was very exciting. And our fans loved it. I think their fans respected us. It was never there was no negativism. It was all good. Competing against them, playing against them. It was, it really helped us get better and helped them get better.
What was your most memorable moment coaching against her?
Well, I think probably her, the conversation that I just, shared with you, that was pretty intense. But I think other times, just we beat them one time in Hawaii in overtime where we had to run an out of bounds play with 3 seconds left, and Ollie Goodenbauer hit a basket to help us win that game. The very first time we beat Tennessee at Stanford, Jennifer Azzi was on the team. That was a great win. 2 years later, we played them at Stanford, and we were down. Probably this game we were down at least 10 with less than 2 minutes to go, and we came back and won in overtime. That was very exciting.
Wow! How was that comeback?
Well, we got some offensive boards. We pressed and turned it over, and it was just one of those games that, there were other games that I thought we had won and they took them away from us. I think they thought they had this one and we took it away from them. So, again, I think your game, your senior year at Stanford was an awesome game. And even the national championship game, that was a great game,
Yeah.
But, it was, I just said one of the things, I coached players internationally that played for Pat, and there was a healthy amount of fear, but tremendous amount of respect and love, and just they learned. They were well coached, and they were out there playing with a purpose, and they were they're great young women to coach because they could take it. They were tough.
Wow. Well, Tara, is there anything else that you would like to bring up about Coach Summitt's legacy or her life or anything that comes to your mind?
Yeah. Well, Candice, I think that I was called when they called me when she was diagnosed with early onset, Alzheimer's dementia, and I just think she teaches us lessons. She taught us lessons in her life and about competition, about being a strong woman, and she taught us a lesson in her death. Enjoy every day. Don't take anything for granted. Here's someone that she should have lived to enjoy her grandchildren, or years and years of enjoying Tennessee basketball or women's basketball, or traveling, all the things that that you hope to enjoy in your later life. But her life was cut short, and so I think that the important thing I take from her is I learned a lot from her in her life, and I learned a lot from her in her death. And it's don't take anything for granted and enjoy every day.
Yes. And with that, Tara, I just want to thank you again, just not only for your time today, but just I just want to tell you how much I appreciate you. And, you know, like you said, time is so short. It's so precious, and, you know, our moments are precious. And I just want to thank you for being that for me. And, you know, I don't know if you hear it enough. I can't tell you enough. You'll never understand what you mean to me. And I just think that Pat Summitt, like you said, you know, she loves you. I love you, and I feel the same way as her. And so, thank you.
Thanks, Candice. Thank you, and I'm so proud of you. And you know, I wish you had a clone right about now. There's a freshman at Stanford.
Oh no, so, you'll be okay, Tara.
We're very excited. We're gonna have a great team and a great year. So
yeah, tell me about it. Tell me about it. Tell me what's going on the farm.
Well, we have. We have a great team returning. Erica McCall and Carly Samuelson and Kaylee Johnson are pretty much the leaders of our team. And then we've got a couple of seniors, Bree Roberson and Kylie Johnson will be, I think they'll be really positive leaders, senior leaders. And freshmen, our young players our freshmen are sophomores now. We've got some great sophomores, and we have an incoming freshman, one from San Diego, Carrington, which we're very excited about. So we just need to get her healthy. You know, she had an ACL in high school, and unfortunately had, just getting healthy. And we have a big girl. We've got some big girls inside. Nadia Single, a freshman from Florida. We have a freshman that's playing on the Canadian team, Michaela Brewer. And we have a young lady, Anna Wilson, point guard. Her brother's a football player, like Dejanay's brother is. Anna's brother plays for the Seahawks, Russell Wilson. So we're very, very excited, and hope that you'll be up to watch it play.
I would love to. And, you know, I got a chance, Tara, I don't know if you know, but I got a chance to meet the three McDonald's All-Americans. I didn't meet the Canadian incoming freshmen, but I got a chance to just vibe with them, and I'm so excited for them. They're so, like, I'm so looking forward to this season, and you can tell that there's this this drive that they have, and I know last season didn't end like they wanted it to.
Sneak in.
Yes, I will.
Sneak in as a clone, you know.
A clone.
We'll sneak you back in there. We'll get you back in that Stanford uniform.
Well, nothing gave me more.
It's always great to talk to you.
Thank you, Tara. And let me tell you,
my best to your mom and your family.
Yes. I love you, Tara. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Take care, Candice. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the latest episode of Candid with Candice Wiggins. Remember, you can subscribe to the Ultimate Hoops Podcast Network on iTunes, Stitcher, and SoundCloud, and listen and download other podcasts like The Wild Card with Luke Hanlon, Recreation Nation with Reed Nelson, The Dream League Insider, and the Short Corner Podcast. Thanks to Ultimate Hoops and Lifetime Fitness, who made this all possible. If you want to learn more about Ultimate Hoops and all of our basketball products, go to uhlife.com. We'll be back next week with an all-new episode of Candid with Candice Wiggins.